Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green engines, and the stock markets. I'm back today with our resident engineer, Mike Herzog. How's it going today, Mike?
Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. So I was telling you, I had somebody, one of my tennis friends, approached me saying her husband had just um, totaled out his car. He had a big Lincoln, and he's determined he wants an American-made sedan, and they pretty much don't exist anymore. Which made for some kind of interesting conversation. And she wanted me to talk to him about EVs, and so it's like I'm like, hey, go over to the Tesla dealership. Or it's not really a dealership. There's a Tesla service center, and you just go in, ask, say you want to test drive a Model S, and they'll send you one. They won't even try to sell it to you. They might tell you where you
Mhm.
can go online if you want to buy one, but that's about as far as you're going to get. They're not going to ask you to step in and talk to the finance manager or anything like that. And just that's it, and
Yeah,
then
and
you're,
it's also the place you want to go if you have questions.
yeah,
Because my experience has been, owning an EV and going to the dealership, it can be hit and miss. There's
hmm
normally one person who's kind of their EV expert or who they want to fit in that space, and then anybody else you don't really get questions. But I think at a Tesla dealership, you'd actually get experts, and people
yeah,
answering questions and what does this mean and what does it look like and everything like that. Now, I think all that's changing, but it's still just as EVs are rolling out to dealers, you'll see the banner pop up. We have EVs in stock, we have this or support it, but it's still just kind of the support's not 100%. It's not there yet.
no, and I get people all the time, taking a hit on EVs. I had another EVs are disposable message. Um, we got something about we did another video on how EVs are supporting the grid in some areas now, with V2G.
Mhm.
You're like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. That's going to make the battery last even less. They don't even last for 5 years now, and it's like, yeah, I don't know what you're smoking, but
Yeah.
that's part of even our one of our topics today is
Right.
how
It's
long
just one
they
of those,
actually
boy,
last.
it's one cycle. It's you're adding a couple of cycles if you do it a couple of times a year. It's not
Yeah,
doing much.
no, it's not. And it's just kind of funny how we still, been doing this for 2 years now.
Is
Oh,
it
tomorrow will be 2 years. I think we started
tomorrow's
on
two
July
years?
10th. Yeah.
All right.
And it's just amazing how many of just the same tired things I've been hearing over and over again for 2 years. And that, people, it's like, well, where are you getting this information? It's like, it's not somebody
Yeah.
who has any experience with EVs. It's
Now
not somebody
I
in the
will
industry.
I'm going to credit this show for being ahead of the curve on worldwide EV trends, because it is absolutely mainstream news right now. China and what they've done with EVs, and I just saw a video from the Wall Street Journal. Did a story about it on how China has entered the EV market, and it's like, oh, you guys are noticing now. That's good. These things are starting to pop up, but it's since I've been doing this, we've been talking about that as like, hey, the train's left the station. This is a worldwide phenomenon, and the U.S. is not dominant in it. And now
No,
it's just it's mainstream. I mean, it's Fox and CNN and Wall Street Journal, New York Times. Everybody's saying like, this is holy cow. What is China doing? This is leaving us in the dust.
it's funny when people want to talk about all the problems with EVs, they're not ever talking about Tesla. They're not talking about Tesla problems. They're talking about problems the Chevy Bolt had 10 years ago,
Yeah, yeah,
or the Nissan Leaf had 10 years ago. And that information just isn't,
yeah.
credible anymore. And it's like, and somehow Tesla never had the issues, and people can like, oh, but this one guy had a Tesla that it's like, yeah, out of the millions and millions sold, and it's just really
Yeah.
hard to fathom. Now it's expected that even out of warranty, only 1 out of 200 EV batteries will fail. I
Wow.
mean, it's really crazy that they should last for 300,000 miles.
Yeah,
And you know,
it is such a different technology than it was a few years ago. And it's not, different with like a capital D, but it's just it's improved. It's small improvements. Hey, we figured out how to do this. Hey, we figured out how to manufacture a little bit better, and put those things out. But you still see, after the hurricane, storm surge, flooding, well, EVs will start on fire if you dip them in salt water.
It's like, well, don't dip them in salt water.
Exactly. Like, yeah, normal car is not going to work well if it's under salt water for
Water
24
either.
hours. I mean,
No.
I don't know what to tell you. That's just kind of, it's a known thing. Sure. Yep. I'll acknowledge that. If it's in the ocean,
Yeah.
it might start a fire if the batteries were leaky to start with.
Right. Yeah, it is just kind of wild to see that. All right. Let's there was some news. So Slate, obviously the Jeff Bezos backed US truck manufacturer that was talking about a $20,000 pickup, that now they're changing the tune because the EV tax credits, well, we should probably talk about that first. The EV tax credits are ending September 30th.
It's official.
Yeah, it's official. It was part of the big, beautiful bill. There was one thing, they took out the postal service trucks
Oh, they did?
being
Okay.
sold. So they took out all that. In fact, it turned out that Congress didn't have the right to do that. So
Okay.
there was an issue with that. The Senate could do something about it if at least 60 people voted in favor of it. But apparently it couldn't be, I don't know if it couldn't be connected in the bill or something, but it had to be removed before it could go anywhere in the Senate. And so all of the stuff about the post office got taken out, which was good to see, because that would have just been
That would have been a
injustice. I mean, I don't know. It's another one of those things where people shouldn't be trying to make policies about things. It's like, well, I don't know. I talk about this all the time with guns. People who don't know anything about guns shouldn't be trying to make laws about guns. And, it's tough to see somebody trying to make laws about something that they have no comprehension of what
and
they're
just
talking about.
we're not even in the case of the post office EV is not even trying to understand. Just EV equals bad. We're not going to do it. It's like, well, this is the prime case for those. Like this is
Yeah.
as good as it gets for.
Well, when we were talking about the battery thing, I mean,
Mhm.
one of the things that's come out of Tesla becoming so popular is the Model 3 is like one of the most used taxis now,
Mhm.
or Uber vehicles. And because it's the most cost effective thing you can drive, and it turns out it's also the longest lasting.
Yeah.
So there's lots of Tesla Model 3s that have already hit the 300,000 plus point driving for Uber, because
God,
people
when did
drive
those come out?
100,000 miles a year. They came out,
2019, 2020?
oh no, older than that. I
Oh,
think
it
the
is?
first one might have been 17,
Oh, okay.
17 or 18. Because I know people that have 18s. So, so they are, it's actually already a 7-year-old car, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my friends who owns multiple Teslas, he has a 2018 Model 3, and then like a 21 or 22 Model Y and a 23 Model X
Ooh.
that he hasn't really driven.
Yeah, no, that's
He bought the Model X, and it's pretty much just sat in the garage.
it's a nice
Part
car.
of it's because he's not been um, around to drive it. He went overseas, and he just doesn't seem to want to come back. He's doing something good, though. He's doing something good. He's a member of a foreign government.
Oh, there you
So,
go. There you go.
yeah. Anyways, but getting back to the topic of Slate. So Slate was part of a show. Let me see, in Ferndale, Michigan, and it was called Moto, Moto.
Okay.
And anyways, obviously the Slate drew a huge crowd. Let's see if I can show some of these pictures here. Give me a minute. I need to get rid of some things. I got a lot of memory usage going on. Give me just a second for it to catch up. See if it'll show the images. Hold on.
Oh, there you go.
Well, it shows one. It was supposed to show me a whole bunch of images. Oh, well. Anyways, they're going to make these in Warsaw, Indiana. This was a prototype, and it drew large crowds. Of course, people were amazed. Somebody had their 7-year-old kid in there, and it said there's no TV. But you know how every modern car has the
Yeah, yeah.
display, and it just has old style
It's old
gadget
style.
controls. Yeah.
It is.
And
You can buy it. I'm pretty sure you can buy it. It's an add-on. Everything for that vehicle is an add-on. You can do
right,
a lot with
right.
it.
Yeah, but they're trying to make it so that um, everything is optional,
Hmm.
so that you can, the basic model. Now, they were originally hoping it was going to be 20,000, so it's probably going to be 27.5-ish is the hope now. The problem with that is at 27.5, the cheapest Ford Maverick is like 28.5 or something like that. It's only like another thousand or so dollars. Good luck finding a Maverick equipped that
Hmm.
way that's new, but I'm just saying that it's a it's possible to find, but I think there's going to be demand. But the Maverick is a four-door um, gas pickup truck that does have a hybrid version. There's another picture there of
Yeah, yeah.
what these things look like. I mean, it's not bad, not bad looking little truck. I mean, nobody be embarrassed driving one of these things, that's for sure.
No, it's not
It's
bad. And
certainly got a good
if
look.
viewers haven't looked, it's worth googling a video because there's different configurations. It can be a little SUV. Yeah,
What's
the
this
base
thing?
model. It's
What is this?
what I don't think kids are gonna know what to do with that.
Man, they got a hand crank for the window there.
I think the
Wow.
base doesn't even have power locks. I think it's
I'm
the old
not
pull up.
sure there. Let's see if it has another picture there of the door open. Not going that way. Cloth seats.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, look at that pretty plain dash. Got knobs. Got knobs everywhere. Yeah, you there once again. You see the roll thing. Oh yeah, then you get the manual controls down here on the seat. Yeah, I've seen something like that in a long time.
It's
But
when we'll see what the price point is because there's something I don't know. Maybe it's my consumer brain like 20,000. Like that's interesting, but 27. It's I don't know for hand crank windows and no features, and then what's all the extra stuff going to cost? I mean, if it was
yeah,
19,999, like I'd be full in.
well, we did a previous episode. We were kind of comparing the idea of buying one of these versus getting a used F-150 Lightning, because
Mhm.
the EVs all tend to depreciate a lot in the first year. They're talking about getting like a 2-year-old Lightning, and where that might be a much better deal. And it's like, I don't know, but it serves a different purpose, right? That F-150 Lightning, to go park it or put it in your garage is a challenge. Okay. Um, the the Slate two-door truck is gonna, you know, be nimble in parking lots and a lot of other things. And it's just one of those things. It's like, okay, do you really need a truck? How often are you actually doing truck things with your truck? Okay. So do you really need a full-size truck for whatever? And then it's like, well, would this smaller truck suit the purpose, right? And the smaller truck is way more energy efficient. Even if you look at the Slate versus an F-150 Lightning, it's probably going to be 40% at least more energy efficient driving down the road, just because it's smaller and
100%.
lighter.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
No, I don't know. That'd be an interesting conversation because I don't they're not in competition. I mean, it's just they seem very like
right.
I can see when my kid turns 16, I can see buying him one of these sleigh cars. Go have
Yeah.
fun, dork around with it, customize it, do what you want. But I could not see buying my kid a even a used F-150, like
150
one of those.
Right.
It's just
No,
very.
I get that.
I
I get
mean,
that.
God, trucks are F-150s are comfortable. The decked out
Yes.
ones, they ride so high. I mean,
Hmm.
it's a very comfortable, easy vehicle to drive
Oh yeah.
with all the
Even
modern controls. Yeah.
and somebody who's 7 feet tall can actually drive one comfortably.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's really amazing how far back you can push the seats and the headroom and everything like that in one. But yeah, you could, you said, you could see your kid driving one of these
Yeah,
small
I mean,
slate
as just
trucks.
as a 20 something, like I don't need a car every day, but I need a car at some point. Sure, I don't feel bad about not driving this thing. It can hang
Right.
out for a couple of weeks. Like, whereas a big, F-150 luxury car, like I probably should be driving that thing. It's
There you
nice.
go.
It's only depreciating.
Yeah. All right. So I was going to tell you too, in the big beautiful bill, they left out the $250 a year federal EV tax.
They did take that out.
Yeah, they did take that out.
Okay.
So a lot of people are going to be happy
Yeah.
about that. That didn't get anywhere either because that was really infuriating to a lot of people about the triple weight EVs,
Yeah.
that don't exist. Yeah. Um, so Nissan has delayed two EVs to 2028 after Trump kills the tax credit. So they were going to make two different EVs at its factory in Canton, Mississippi, which that's on I-55 just north of Jackson.
Okay.
And anyways, they're going to delay the production for at least 10 months. Now, they cited recent slowing EV demand. Well, I think we all expect EV demand to drop after September 30th to an extent.
Hmm.
But what's also happening at the same time, dealers are saying that they're seeing a surge of people trying to get
Right
one
now.
bought right now
Yeah.
while that still exists.
Oh, 100,
Um,
100%. Like, it's, if you were even considering it, like, go look, see what's available right now, because it's $4,000 or $7,500. Like,
these
that's
Nissan EVs were codenamed PZ1K for the Nissan version, and for the Infinity version, it was PZ1J. So they really hadn't even figured out what they're going to call these cars yet.
just has
I
generic serial model number, manufacturer. Not even a,
I mean, to me, that abbreviation says Putsy One. So what you would be driving the Putsy One EV? Yeah.
oh,
I mean, just like me and the Busy Forks, right?
yeah. I
Um,
think we're gonna see that. I think a handful of the manufacturers, like when Toyota, gosh, we did a string of these shows, like 3 weeks in a row. Toyota kept announcing new EVs. Like, we've got
yes,
five more models, and I think a lot of that was pretty ambitious. And regardless of the taxes, I think when the rubber hits the road, it's what's actually going to come out there. Like, everything's going to slow down a little bit. But yeah, we'll see a bump after, or a dip after September 30th, and quarter over quarter, we always see that, first quarter of the next year take a little bit of a dip. So on paper, if you were going to look at it through that lens, you could see, wow, quarter over quarter, EVs are floundering, they're dying. But it's like, no, that's what's going to happen. We can predict it. We could look at it. This is just what happens, and just wait. It's going to take 6 to 9 months to settle this thing out once it goes through.
well, it's shocking to see what a percentage of all car sales worldwide are electric. And then you look at the US, it's about 10%, but overseas it's 25. Or
Mhm.
if you took US out of the equation, it's probably 30% in the rest of the countries.
Yeah, it's very different. Yeah, there's a really good report. The International Energy Agency did their
Hmm.
2025 study on 2024, and it's wild. It's wild to see what they did, especially overseas. Like, we don't think about it as much, but two-wheel and three-wheel vehicles in Southeast Asia are just blowing up, because that's one of the main forms of transport. So we don't talk about that as much, but still a vehicle. It's still something they use. It's going crazy.
Can you picture some of those services they have where you instead of your Uber being a car, it's a motorcycle and you hop on the
You
back of
just
the
hop on the back.
motorcycle? Yeah, and somebody gives you a ride to work. And it's just so hard to fathom that being normal to
Mm-hmm.
somebody in the United States. And yet, you know,
The way of life. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, with a couple of milk crates on the back too, and whatever.
right.
Sure, hop on. I got room. Pop up.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, you see a picture of somebody on a scooter and they got two of their kids on the scooter with them, one
Hmm.
behind them and one in front of them while they're trying to
Weave in
steer
and
the
out of
little
traffic.
scooter. Yeah, and it's just like, wow, I'm sure you'd get pulled over for that in the United States,
Oh yeah,
you know.
that'd be frowned upon.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make fun of other people's cultures, but it's just so different than what we have
Yeah.
here. Here, Yeah, that I don't want to see that three-wheeler versus an
An
F-150.
Escalade or an
Yeah, or an
F-150.
Escalade. Yeah. All right. So, how much range does your EV lose after 5 years? Here's real data. And, people, whenever we talk about something like an EV should last 20 years and go 300,000 miles, we're like, well, not very many EVs. What EV's been around for
Mhm.
20 years? And truth is, other than like an EV1 or some random oddball ones that aren't sold anymore, you know,
You're not going to get
that
it.
that doesn't exist. I mean, I think the Leaf came out in 10, so that'd be like 15 years on the Leaf, and the Model S came out in 2012. So you got like 13 years on the Model S. But um, this article says from the e-tron to the Nissan Leaf, mainstream electric cars after 5 years are sitting between 87 and 94% range retention, which is a big leap in battery longevity from how it had been. And see if I can get this. I can't do
Yeah,
anything with
I'm in
understand
that
this chart.
range. I signed up for Recurrent to get the monitoring, and I don't know if it was coincidence, but I was worried about my range. I thought I was prematurely losing some, and it was coming off of winter and cold weather, but it's
Hmm.
still like, gosh, I feel like I'm losing a lot. So I signed up for Recurrent, and everything came back normal. And then maybe it's just my perception, but right after that, it was like, boy, my miles feel like they're back up. Back in
Yeah.
the 230 range, not below 190 after a full charge. But
Well,
yeah,
look at this
it's checking
percent
out.
range retained after 5 years. The Audi e-tron comes in number one,
It's
94%.
this summer's been great. I mean, I for whatever reason, it feels like it's better than last summer. Maybe I'm better at conditioning or charging or whatever it is, but it's not bad.
Yeah, and here's the worst retention after 5 years. The Mitsubishi IMIEV only has 74%. So, folks, if you're out in the market, this is a
I know
2012
that's what I'm
model.
looking at. It's hard for me to see those numbers, but they look like they're all from the early 20
Yeah,
teens.
some of these are pretty old. Yeah, let me see. The 2011 Nissan Leaf only retains 76%. I mean, these vehicles obviously aren't, and the MIEV is probably not even made anymore. The Nissan Leaf is made, but it doesn't have these problems anymore.
Well, no, I'm
Um,
looking that top half's kind of misleading because
yeah,
it's
2014, 15, 15, 15,
you can't
14,
buy any of
14.
those vehicles new, so it's
Yeah,
kind of a moot point. Like that's not
The
going to
Renault
influence my
Zoe.
decision.
Well, it's got the 2013 Fiat 500e. I think even Bill's
Isn't that
500e is like
Bill?
an 18. Yeah, I think he's got like an 18.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that old. Um, but then you look at these other ones, the Polestar 2. Well, how long has Polestar been selling cars? Um, maybe since like 2018.
Mhm.
Um, the Kia Niro EV, Jaguar I-Pace, the e-tron, the ID.4, the Kona Electric, the Mustang Mach-E, Tesla Model 3 long range, Chevy Bolt. Even the Chevy Bolt's at 90% after
Mhm.
5 years. And the Nissan Leaf is at overall is at 87.5 versus this 2011 model, which was 76.5. That's an 11% difference. I mean, that's huge in the amount of decline. Um,
Maybe I'm looking at this wrong, and this graph has proven the point we've been talking about of look how much better batteries have gotten in the past 10
right.
years. I mean, that's all these averages got pulled way up from where they
Oh, yeah.
were 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it's like I always compare the EV industry to computers in the 90s. The well, the cost of batteries is, for the same amount of money, you can get twice the range on a battery as you did 2 years earlier.
Mhm.
But they're not putting in. It just means they're starting to put in smaller and smaller batteries, and so it's becoming a cheaper and cheaper part of the car. And it was. I'm assuming the battery's still the most expensive part of an EV. Okay, but it's rapidly. I don't know what would be the next most expensive piece on the EV, but
Chassis,
it's
I don't know. Yeah.
yeah, probably a chassis. It's really dropping to the point where it's going to be quite negligible, and it's expected to keep getting cheaper. We were talking yesterday. that for battery storage, the costs in the past 2 years have dropped 80%.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's crazy to think a 100 megawatt battery went down 80%, for putting something for solar storage,
Mhm.
which sure makes solar as baseload power a much more viable thing than it was
Yeah.
a couple of
Yeah.
years ago. I mean, it makes a lot more financial sense than it did. Um, and as somebody who's busy promoting nuclear energy, I love seeing the good stuff happen in other spaces. So, but yeah, in the early days, 5-year retention ranged from under 70% for early Leafs to 90% on rare liquid cooled prototypes. Um, but the Audi e-tron and the Jaguar I-Pace both kind of are leaders, which that's kind of fascinating that those ones are getting it done. But that's it's certainly a lot farther than people talking about them being disposable. Now that was
Mhm.
done by years. We've seen them done by mileage, and it seems that you lose was it a percent every 13,000 miles?
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, anyways. Um, okay. So I had something about the plummeting cost of energy. Let me see if how I can get this to fit on my screen real well. This is from Visual Capitalist. They always have nice. So this is various types. Now this is only on renewable energy, but this is going by years. And over here on the far left is 2014, and on the
Mhm.
far right is 2023. So it was basically, well, I guess a 10-year stretch. Offshore wind went down 60%, but um, solar went down 81%. Or hold on,
So that's like
concentrate.
the big solar concentrators. So those are big
Yeah,
utility plants that point the
yeah.
sun to boil water.
No, 54% it dropped. 81% of renewable capacity added in 23 delivered electricity at a lower cost than fossil fuel based alternatives.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean it's interesting to see that. Okay, what would solar PV be if
So those are the solar panels. So PV is photovoltaic. So that like
mhm,
that's solar panels, and then that top one's a solar concentrator. So
so
it's basically like a big dome that
mhm,
reflects all of the sunlight to a central point, and then
yeah.
that boils water, which produces steam, which turns a turbine.
Oh, okay. That's a different concept.
Mhm.
Um Offshore, but bioenergy 19%. So photovoltaics came down
Yeah.
75% in those 10 years. Onshore wind went down 62%. Yeah, it's just stuff just keeps getting cheaper and cheaper. Now, this wasn't, these weren't necessarily US numbers.
Mhm.
I'm sure these are world numbers, but yeah, it's for the whole world. And it's challenging because that means that a lot of that savings was recognized outside the United States. The United States might not have had the same
Same price.
reduction in costs. A lot of that reduction in costs might have been India and China. I mean, India is um, quickly becoming one of the big solar powerhouses, but so is China. They're doing everything they can to add as much power as they possibly can. Um, have you heard of a type of battery backup called vanadium flow?
I have, yeah.
So apparently now in battery backups for your house, you have a choice between lithium ion or vanadium flow. Um, we're all familiar with lithium ion. Vanadium flow offer 20 to 30 years of usable service life without degradation and with little chance of any kind of thermal runaway that could lead to fires. Now, I don't think people are having a real problem with their home batteries having thermal
Not a
runaway.
Tesla mega pack, no.
Yeah.
Powerwall.
Trying to see if I can learn anything real quick
I
about.
think I don't I could be saying this wrong, but I think one of the challenges with flow batteries is footprint. You need bigger tanks, so they're not quite, they take up more space, and then they're really not portable. So like a
Mhm.
Tesla Powerwall, you just unscrew it from the wall, go move it, you can go put it somewhere else. But I believe with the flow style batteries, you got to put your tanks in, you get all that stuff in there, and once you kind of get it set, that's where it's going to live. You don't necessarily move them around.
Apparently, one of the issues with the vanadium is that the continuous power output in kilowatts is only 5 kilowatts.
So it's
So
very
it really can't power a whole lot.
uh,
Um, oh, but they're actually cheaper per kilowatt hour
really
for the battery storage. Yeah. So
okay.
the average price per
Cool.
kilowatt hour of a Tesla Powerwall is $1,133 per kilowatt hour, and vanadium ones are anywhere from 500 to 900. Still,
Wow, that's a big difference.
um, yeah, but they tend to also be larger. So it's common to have a capacity of 30. So that means it ranges anywhere from 15,000 to $27,000, whereas a Tesla one is 13.5. You're talking about $15,000 for one of those. But
Mhm.
it would deliver up to 11 and a half kilowatts of continuous power. So, and it looks like the Powerwall is a little more energy efficient too. Anyways, that was just something a little bit I
Yeah,
thought was
that
kind
was
of
one of those
interesting.
more exotic technologies from 5, 10 years ago that kept popping up. People trying to implement, but yeah, it's cool that it's commercialized and at a reasonable price too.
Yeah. So, Jim Farley, the Ford CEO, is sounding the alarm again on China. Said there's three ways Chinese EVs drastically differ from their U.S. rivals. The average electric car in China costs $25,000 less than the average electric car in the United States.
It's a big difference.
That's, yeah, that would probably make them more popular here too. Um, let's see. It's not just that. There's variety. There's I'm trying to think. I mean, we've probably now got about a couple dozen models on the market here in the United States, but
Mhm.
they literally probably have 100 different models of EVs in China. It's just oh, Xiaomi's second car, the YU7 SUV, got 200,000 pre-orders in the first 3 minutes when it launched last week. Uh, um, Yeah, that's a company that's been leveraging their smartphone and consumer tech ecosystem to kind of create a unique thing. Man, we complained that the original Xiaomi looked a lot like a Porsche Panamera.
Mhm.
Hold on, where to go? Gee, tell me what their SUV
Is
looks
it going to
like.
just look like, what is the, not the Macon, tie tie-in? Yeah, yeah. Just like it.
Come
Tie.
on.
God, I forget the name of it, but that's
We
it.
wanted to give it kind of a Porsche look, right?
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's not kind of. I mean, that's
I mean, I would mistake that if I saw that here. I'd just
yeah.
assume it was a Macon or a Cayenne.
Cayenne. That's the name. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, man, they're not ripping something off there. They're not ripping off a German car manufacturer.
No, but you would 100% look at that and like, that's a luxury car that has the
Yes,
same feel and everything, but instead yeah, it's Chinese
yeah,
EV.
yeah. Isn't that crazy? I mean, that it couldn't say Porsche more on it. If it would sit in front of the Xiaomi building, you just wouldn't know.
So
Um,
they fit in, and what they're going after, and why what China is doing is really important with the cell phone integration. So we talk about like V2G a lot, like vehicle
mhm.
to grid, and there's the new ones V2X, which is connected to anything, whatever you want. But there's this also concept like V2E, which is vehicle to everything, and it's more focused on communications. and it's saying your car should be able to talk to all the other smart devices that are happening
Oh, okay.
at some point, traffic signals, traffic reports, weather reports, speed limits, all of these other sources. They want your car to be able to communicate with that. So that's what China's really building this platform on is this V2E. Your car should integrate with the rest of your life, and what it means, and your home electronics and everything. It should connect to your Wi-Fi when you get home. That kind of thing. So that's what they're really focused on in that space, which is it's cool. And that's where China, and starting from a cell phone company and really considering EVs differently than we consider them here, as more of this little city commuter car. This is what it is, and it's an accessory to my cell phone almost. It does all the things I want it to and gets me from point A to point B.
So the Department of Energy made an announcement on Monday, or they published a methodology for assessing grid reliability.
I
The,
saw that. Yeah, I saw the report.
yeah, plant retirements and load growth could drive 100 times increase in blackouts by 2030. I mean,
100% increase, they said. Yeah. Or that maybe it was
no,
like
a
100%
hundred times,
chance.
100 times,
100 times.
10,000%.
I think
Yeah,
the one I saw, I think they said there's 100% chance we will have an issue.
yeah. Blackouts can increase by 100 times in 2030 relative to today's average as the U.S. continues to shutter power plants and fails to add additional firm capacity amid rising demand, the Department of Energy said in a Monday report. It includes a uniform methodology to identify regions at risk. I wonder which regions they are. Let's see. Do you remember if it said anything when you looked at it?
I mean,
Yeah, I'm just.
I'm going to guess it's the usual suspects. Well, there's places like even I would say it's central Midwest, like Ohio, and all the data center
Mhm.
load they're adding, and Virginia and West Virginia. Um, so a couple of things that are at their part. One, it's very easy to fall into the trap. Like, this is a politicized document. It's new administration. They want to encourage fossil fuels. Bring that stuff back and everything, which is part of it. Like, they're encouraging. They think fossil fuels is one of the answers. Having worked in the industry, like, there's a lot of truth in that report and what they're
Mhm.
saying, and instability. And yeah, we are retiring a lot of units. We're bringing on non-firm generation, and we're bringing on more load than we've done since air conditioning in the 1960s and 70s. So, like, yes, it's a very good chance for instability and these things happening, and the level of detail and depth they're going into studies now of how to consider all of this. It's insane, from this perspective. And there are stuff I never thought I would see in my career. Declining frequencies, instability situations, like getting close to the edge a couple of times are happening. So that's their sentiments of like, yeah, this is a real thing. We need to be prepared for this, like 100%, 100%. Now, personally, I would advocate for nuclear, in that space as a solution, and the administration, I think, agrees. I mean, based on their announcement last month. But fossil fuels are going to be tough to bring back, especially coal at this point. But yeah, I don't disagree with the sentiment of the report of things could get a little rough in the next 5 years.
Yeah. Clean energy advocates say the report appears to exaggerate the risks and undercount the contributions of wind, solar, and battery storage resources. Of course, the thing I was telling you about how battery storage costs have declined by 80% in the
Yeah.
last 2 years. I mean, that's staggering and not something I think people have. I mean, that
Yeah.
makes wind, if you can build it fast enough, it makes wind and solar prospectively, because obviously batteries have no inherent power, but it's cheap
Mhm.
enough to turn it into
It,
some
it
type of baseload energy.
it shores it up. It creates stability, and shores everything up in that space. Yeah, I don't like what gets missed when you look at it, where from a system planning operating standpoint that I come from, like, things can work great 99.9999% of the time, but it's that one out of 10 million chance that we're trying to mitigate against. And that's where it gets really tough with solar and wind and everything like that, where yeah, it should work great all the time, but there's that one scenario where it's winter, there's no wind, natural gas freezes up, the sun doesn't shine with the same intensity, and it's a polar vortex in a part of the country that's not used to it. That's the issues that we're seeing. Where these other things just ran, you could kind of just turn them on and let them go. But the new changes just they create weird circumstances and conditions that, yeah, that's if this happens, the grid will collapse. And it's a possibility. It's not a 0%.
Oh, here's where they're saying it's going to happen. This doesn't look good, Mike. You
Ooh,
better get to
that's
work. Yeah, the dark brown is the really bad areas.
and that's where we're. If you see that
LOLH
shape
stands
on the
for
bottom of it, it's very similar to the shape of the state we live in.
average loss of load hours. Yeah, 100 to 450. Like Washington State seems fine, but they get all their power from hydro. Um, yeah, yeah, we're in the bad spot, but Texas is pretty bad. Is like the next. Well, we got this over here. Where Washington D.C. is.
DC. Yeah.
Yeah, everything but Delaware. Delaware seems okay. Um, but yeah, that's pretty bad. But pretty much all of the Central Plains and all that, looking at losing a lot. It's interesting up here in New York, and then no, they get their power from Quebec. So once again, that's
Mhm.
hydro being imported there. Uh, California is okay. I guess they're considered to be all right, but most of the power that's being shut off is in the darker areas. So yeah, it looks like it could be
I'm
rough.
gonna go send that picture to some people.
I'm gonna go invest in some
Yeah,
panels.
what are we doing about this, guys?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I'm here to work. I'm here to
Yeah,
work.
let's take a look at it. Like Uncle Sam just called us out. It's being in
Yeah.
trouble.
Um, Let me see. The United States cannot afford to continue down the unstable and dangerous path of energy subtraction previous leaders pursued, forcing the closure of baseload power sources like coal and natural gas. The coal sector praised the report. Now, what we figured the other day that what
Go
8%
figure.
of all U.S. energy generation comes from coal, but that was not electricity. 18% of electricity, but
Mhm.
the bigger number included things like driving your car.
Yeah.
Um, but base load power sources like coal are being replaced by less reliable sources like wind and solar. But like we were saying, if battery storage is filling in, wind and solar is inexpensive and to provide, and it has, you know,
Yeah.
it's not just people talk about carbon emissions or whatever, but you got pollution too. Coal is incredibly polluting.
It
Um,
is, and like I mean, that's where these things get politically charged because that as a statement, like period,
mhm.
like base load, reliable base load is being replaced by less reliable sources. Like, yeah, that is true, but the answer doesn't have to be coal. It is batteries. It's shoring it up other ways and putting more of it out there. Frankly, helps with this quite a bit too. Which is what the change is. I mean,
Yeah,
when we looked at this 15 years ago, when the Obama administration said we need to shut down coal, everybody in the industry was like, you can't do that. Like it doesn't work that way. It's going to take a long time to make that happen.
and then you go tell them they need to learn how to code,
Yeah.
to replace the jobs, and then you come up with AI where
Then
you
you
don't
get
need
AI.
coders anymore. Yeah,
I forgive. Scratch that one. Scratch that one. What if you did something with your hands? Like, man, oh, okay.
yeah. Um, I don't know, but it's interesting kind of to see this. But we're seeing like you're kind of talking about. We're seeing stuff kind of on the bleeding edge.
Mhm.
That's coming out. We see where things are really going, and then you see these discussions that are based on technology from 10 or 20 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's frustrating sometimes to watch the discussions. You know that come about are kind of frustrating to listen to because it's like, yeah, you don't know. You
Mhm.
should admit when you don't know what you don't know. Anyways, well, folks, want to thank everybody for watching today. I'll be back with Bill tomorrow, and Mike and I will be back next week. Otherwise, folks, have a great day.